Hi, I thought it might be interesting just to have a brief chat about a case from the United States Supreme Court that came out yesterday because it's got an outlaw sort of bent. It starts with this lass. This is Lynn Goldsmith, and she's a photographer. And way back in 1981, she was on assignment, and she took a photograph of this gentleman, who I'm sure you'll all remember. And she kept on to that photograph. Not much happened with it. However, in 1984, Andy Warhol, who you've probably all heard of, he produced a series of 16 prints. Here we are. And again, they were sort of like floating around. But then in 2016, Prince obviously passed away. I'll have to tell you sometime, but I actually worked for Prince once, and he's an amazing guy. So that's perhaps a subject for another day. But yeah, he passed away, and obviously there's a lot of news stories. And Vanity Fair published an article, a retrospective on his life, and they used one of the Warhol prints as the illustration. And they actually paid the Warhol Foundation $10,000 for it. Miss Goldsmith didn't get a penny. So she was obviously upset about that and started going, hey, that's my photograph. Now, interestingly, people saying, oh, and she sued the Warhol Foundation. Actually, the Warhol Foundation brought a claim for what we call a declaration to say, actually, no, we are entitled to use that. This is fair use. And you've seen my other fair use video, hopefully. One of the fair use doctrines is transformation. You take somebody's work that is copyrighted, but you do something to it that transforms it. You add something to it that makes it your own. At first instance, the court said, actually, no, this is just a rip-off. But that went to appeal, and the appeal court said, no, we need to encourage art. We need to sort of encourage people to build on things. That's how it's always worked. So they actually reversed the decision. But this actually went all the way to the Supreme Court, which in itself is quite rare because, the Supreme Court chooses its own cases, its own docket, and they tend only to do things of enormous public importance. But clearly they just wanted to get some art stuff off their chest. What's the result? Well, the result was 7-2 in favour of Miss Goldsmith. In other words, they said, yeah, this was a rip-off. Now, a couple of things to know here. It's very interesting that the court didn't break on party lines like it usually does. It was 7-2, but each judge put their own opinion, and the dissents are actually very, very interesting because they're saying, well, no, we need to encourage this because, this stagnates art if people are too scared to, build on other people's work. And then, but, the main judge would say, well, no, the whole point is, do something original. Art is better if people aren't just copying each other. However, as always with these things, each case turns on its own facts. And this is a very, very narrow case on a specific one-off use. And the court actually took a very commercial view. They said, well, when we're considering transformation, we're not going to bother with that. We're going to look at what was the purpose of this. Well, both photographs are effectively produced to be magazine illustrations on a commercial basis. So therefore, they tend to look at, like I say, they looked at it more from a business point of view than an artistic point of view. I would argue it hasn't actually changed the fundamental law. It's always going to be a matter of subjective opinion, really, as to whether a work has been truly transformative. I don't think this case particularly helps us. However, I will have a proper deeper dive into it, and I'll see if I can find anything more interesting for you in the future. But I just thought you might have seen this in the headlines and were wondering what it was about. So that's my summary.